Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu,
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shrijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shrijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shrijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shrijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shrijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyutanamdharmasya tadatmanam shrijamyaham. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Jagadisha Hare.
Tavakara Kamala Varenakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanuringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Tavakara Kamala Varenakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubhringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jai Shriman Narayana. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Om Hari Om. Namaste, everyone. It is absolutely our pleasure to be with you today on this Sunday. I believe it's February 9th at 2 p.m. Vedic Heartland time. For those who don't know what that means, that's what we call Central Time here in the Vedic Heartland, in our Vedic community on the outskirts of Omaha, Nebraska. And again, I am very happy that you're all here with us today. What we're going to be doing is a continuation of what we started the last time, and that is looking at the teachings of Dattatreya as they are found in the Markandeya Purana, very specifically. And truthfully, we're looking at just 5 verses, but there's so much to dive into with these 5 verses to the point where, this will be at least 2, maybe 3. We'll see, sessions altogether. We'll see if we can finish today. In any case, I do want to save some significant amount of time for questions. Because again, so many people have questions, and just due to time, even with us going over time, sometimes we can't get to all the questions. But we will definitely do that. Before we begin, let me just say, first of all, it is not too late for those of you who are out there who you are on social media. You're on X, you're on Gab, you're on Facebook, you're anywhere whatsoever. Please feel free to take the link to this live stream and right now just share it. It'll only take you a few seconds, because even this late into our live stream, actually, if you do that, more people will come. And our goal is indeed to have ultimately as many people as possible on these live streams and as many people as possible watching the actual videos once they're available in recorded form. So if you can help us to get the word out, we would appreciate it greatly. Let me just say several things. As always, if you have not subscribed yet to this channel, what are you waiting for? This is the very best channel on Vedic philosophy and spirituality available anywhere upon the earth today. And that's not an exaggeration, it's maybe an under-exaggeration, actually. So please subscribe. Please encourage others to subscribe as well. And please come to our website, dharmacentral.com, whenever you have a chance. That will tell you a little bit more about the International Sanatana Dharma Society, and it will be a wonderful resource for you for every aspect of Sanatana Dharma. All that being said, now let's dive into the verses that we began doing last time. And again, we just ran out of time. We didn't quite have enough time to go through everything. And again, these are 5 verses from the Markandeya Purana. And the last thing that we talked about was the nature of suffering. The last, let's say, sentence that we looked at was the sentence, knowledge comes through suffering. And I explained that very in depth. If people need a review, once this live stream is over, watch the previous live stream, the recording of that, and you'll see all these sentences that we went through. But again, without repeating this too much, that was the last sentence that we did. Please feel free to follow along in the description if you want to. All these verses are there. And we will continue. Suffering is the outcome of those whose minds are engrossed with selfishness. There is not just a mouthful, but a philosophy full right there. I don't know if anyone's ever used that term. But this is truly a very, very important sentence. Now, for those individuals who are conversant with Vedic philosophy, this sentence will come as no surprise, because indeed this is the Vedic understanding and explanation of our existential dilemma, our present existential dilemma. And that is what? That we find ourselves in suffering, that we find ourselves really in a duality, where within this material world, and this is what makes it for many people, even especially frustrating, that the nature of this world is such that, one moment we'll have happiness, the next moment we'll have suffering, and then on like that. And then, the suffering will last a little bit longer than usual. The happiness will last a little bit longer than usual, etc. But it is certainly a realm of duality. But of course, being in illusion, most living beings sadly don't really appreciate the moments of happiness as much as they should. Rather, what is it that always stands out? It's the suffering. It's the suffering. It's the suffering. And again, this is true for all beings, and this is for deeply psychological, let's say psycho-spiritual reasons. It's because A, suffering is something that is alien to who we are as living beings. Suffering is alien to the Atman on the one hand, whereas on the other hand, happiness is not. The Atman is meant to be happy. So that's when we experience suffering, oh, we notice it. We definitely notice it. And there are other reasons which I don't have to go into. But in any case, the nature of this world is that indeed beings suffer. Now, what is interesting is that really, to my very extensive knowledge, all of the ancient religions, all of the real, let's say, traditional religions, all place the blame for that suffering, interestingly, in the same place. And this is true for Sanatana Dharma as well. So the ever-present question in modernity, why do we suffer, why do we suffer, why do we suffer? We suffer because of ourselves. I am responsible for my suffering. No one else is. You are responsible for your suffering. No one else is. So we are responsible for our suffering in one way or another. It could be karmic. You see, someone could try to play Asura's advocate. Well, but I was just sitting on a subway car reading the newspaper and some stranger came up and just punched me in the side of the head. How did I cause that? That's called karma. That's called karma. And this is the important point, is that directly or indirectly, when we trace back as far as causality, what is the actual cause of our suffering, what we find is that, again, either directly or indirectly, we are the cause. Indeed, in, let's say, somewhat modern philosophy, this is called the principle of sufficient causality, i.e., you have an effect. What is that effect? I am suffering. You look deeply enough, you'll find the cause. There is always a cause. There is no such thing as causeless suffering. Or for that matter, happiness either. Oh, no, it goes both ways. Oh, I just won a little lottery for $10,000 or something. Oh, well, that's a cause of happiness. See, the opposite of suffering. Why? It was because of me. Because either I was intelligent enough that I kind of knew what I was doing in playing the lottery, or karma. I did something wonderful 3 lifetimes ago, 1 lifetime ago, whenever, such that now there is a reciprocal result as a result of that. So in any case, we are the authors of our own suffering. Now speaking about suffering very specifically. So let's just look at this sentence one more time now with that as a preface. Suffering is the outcome of those whose minds are engrossed in selfishness. So indeed, understanding that we are the authors of our own suffering, it's not enough to merely understand that. That's the beginning. One could say, when it comes to the philosophical question of the origins of suffering, that's kindergarten. That's the beginning. I am the author of my own suffering. But we have to go deeper. Why would we author our own suffering? Because this sounds counterintuitive. It's counterlogical. And the truth of the matter is, at least on the surface level, indeed it is. How many people, some people do, there are some mentally ill people maybe who do this, but we're talking about not mentally ill. How many people contemplate consciously on a day-to-day basis, how can I make myself suffer today? I would like to experience some pain. Happiness? No, not today. No, I think today's pain day. Not many people do that. So thus, again, we are not only the author of our suffering, but we need to go deeper than even that. Why? Why is this the case? How do we author our own suffering? It's due to selfishness. In other words, when we make the wrong choices in life, and again this begs the question, why do we make the wrong choices in life? Why do we even do this? We make the wrong choices because we're in illusion. We make the wrong choices because we are selfish. We make the wrong choices because we're short-sighted. We make the wrong choices because we want pleasure this second, rather than, no, not pleasure this second, but then let me do that which is ultimately in my best interest. So you see, in this way, we indeed choose of our own free volition to engage in certain actions and activities that are motivated by selfishness. And thus, as a result of that, whenever we choose, let me make this part clear. Whenever we choose the path of selfishness in the greatest of choices or in the smallest of choices, we are harming ourselves. The biggest things, obviously, I'm going to harm other people because I think it's going to benefit me somehow. Oh, so in a very big way, or even in a small way. Well, what are some small ways? I'm on a diet. I want to be on a diet. I want to lose 10 pounds, 15, 20, 50, 100 pounds. And right now I have a choice. Let me look at my fridge because I am hungry. All right, I have an apple and I have that piece of cheesecake that I have as a leftover from dinner last night from the restaurant. What do I choose? You see, that's a small thing. It's a small thing. But despite the fact that it's a small thing, again, it is selfishness. We're making that selfish choice, and now as a result, we suffer. Oh, a big suffering? No, probably small. But it, of course, compounds. All the small little choices, we know this. All the small choices that we make also compound, whether for good or for bad. But speaking specifically of the bad, of suffering, which is what Dattatreya is speaking about here. Suffering is the outcome of those whose minds are engrossed with selfishness. So these are the origins of why we suffer. Let me make this very, very clear and speak about this in terms of theodicy. So again, those individuals who in modern times ask the question, I'm suffering so much. Why does God let me suffer so much? That's the prattling of a child, a true child. God does not let us suffer. God does not make us suffer. Why does God hate me so much? I'm going through this and this and this. No, we make ourselves suffer. We bring to ourselves both suffering and happiness via karma and via just absolutely direct empirical cause and effect. And it's that simple. So now let's go on with this understanding. Hence, the man who desires final liberation should strenuously discard every material association. Very nice. So now explaining, as Dattatreya does, what is the cause of this suffering. Now he explains how it is that we are to overcome this suffering. Hence, the man who desires final liberation should strenuously discard every material association. So what is liberation? Liberation is the opposite of suffering. See, what's very nice is if a person is a good reader, which sadly is, harder to find these days. It's very difficult for people to understand really good writers and the subtleties that are there. If you read this entire 5 verses again and take your time with it, not read it really quick like you're reading something on X or some quick post somewhere. No, if you take your time with this, you see the logicality of structure that's here. So for the last 2 sentences, Dattatreya is speaking about suffering, suffering, suffering. Now he's talking about how to alleviate that suffering. So once again, hence the man who desires final liberation. What is that final liberation in relationship to suffering? It is its opposite. So why do we suffer? We suffer because we're bound. Why are we bound? We're bound by our own ego. We're bound by our own ego operating in a realm of illusion. That's why we suffer. How do we alleviate that suffer? We do the opposite. We do the opposite. And what is the opposite of suffering? It is mukti. It is moksha. It is final liberation. It is that liberation from our present existential situation such that the causes of the suffering cease, and thus in time the suffering itself also will cease. That's final liberation. So again, this is now what Dattatreya is speaking of. Hence the man who desires this, what we've just been saying, final liberation, what does he do? Well, he should strenuously stop there. Because again, I always have to emphasize. In my talks, I emphasize many things for many purposes. One of which is I emphasize those words that people today, the denizens of not just the Kali Yuga, but 2025, need to hear. Why? Because we have been harmed from without. such that we now harm ourselves within. There are certain terms and words and concepts and ways of being that were understood not just to be the norm at one time, but that were to our benefit. Now it's been turned upside down. The entire world and understanding has been turned upside down. So thus, even when it comes to spirituality, this is why I go on and on about these things. Now most people, when they talk about spirituality, they have a New Age understanding of spirituality. They have a neo-Hindu, they have a left-hand path, etc. understanding of spirituality, i.e. the opposite of what spirituality is. In practicing spirituality, we are to be strenuous. What does that mean? Oh no, it doesn't mean stressful. Sometimes people think that those two words are synonymous. No, it means we're to be strong. Strenuous means strong. Feel free to look it up. It means we are to be the sort of people who we do not give up. We are strong. We don't give up. We stay on the path. We do not veer from the path in any way. So this is how we achieve liberation. So again, let's go through this. We're almost literally going through this one word at a time. Hence, the man who desires final liberation should strenuously, and now do what? Discard every material association. So indeed, the way that we achieve liberation is that we embrace reality and we reject, we transcend all that which is of the nature of illusion. Very simple. We transcend all that which is of the nature of illusion. So thus, again, looking at this again, we discard every material association. Now, what's meant by material association? Now, this is something that is of importance. Do we reject matter itself? That would be very hard. In fact, I would be very curious for those individuals who are out there, and please forgive me. I know all the many hundreds of different kinds of individuals who are in our audience. I know there aren't many. There are maybe 2 people who probably think that they're very advanced yogis. And I would love to see individuals try to not only function in this world, even function as yogis within this world, not acknowledging matter. And with the full implications of what that means. Listen to the words carefully, without acknowledging matter. Oh, I don't have a body. My body has no needs. Oh, I feel rumbling in my stomach telling me I'm hungry. No, I'm not going to eat. Oh, for some reason, I don't know why, this pump in my chest wants to continuously breathe. No, I'm going to ignore it. And on and on and on. There is not even an advanced yogi who can quite literally ignore the fact of materiality and matter. This is why this is not what we are to do, and that is not what Dattatreya is saying here. But rather, let's look at this again. Rather, discard every material association. So in other words, associating our true identity with that which is not our true identity. That is materiality. What is meant by matter? What is meant by the material, by materiality itself? You see, it's not just the obvious. It's not just physical things, etc., etc. No, it means all that which is material. It means the mind. It means quite literally everything. It means ego. We are not to associate first and foremost with ego. Ego is material. Ahankara is, by its very constitutional nature, something that is of the nature of the material. It has prakriti as its source and as its foundation. We're talking about ahankara. We're talking about the I maker. We're talking about the artificial sense of self. This is what it is. It's material. And because the Atman is temporarily associating with that which is material, thus the Atman is in illusion. Because why? It is associating with that which it is not. It's actually quite simple to understand. It's interesting. It is so supremely logical to understand the idea that's taught in Sankhya, in Yoga, in Bhagavad Gita, of the differentiation between consciousness versus materiality. It's actually very easy to understand. That's why when I was 10 years old and I first read Bhagavad Gita and I came to the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and this is exactly what Krishna explains, I knew right then and there, wow, this is philosophy. There's no nonsense about this. This is philosophy. This is cutting through all of the clouds of illusion and going straight to the matter. Yes, we are not materiality. We are of the nature of consciousness. So it's interesting. This is something that's easy to understand logically, but more important than understanding it logically is to live in such a way, to experience this, to realize this, and to live in such a way that indeed we transcend materiality. So again, just to go through this one last time. Hence, the man who desires final liberation should strenuously discard every material associating with the material, etc. Now, all that said, let's go on. When material associations fall away, the mistaken designation that it is mine disappears. How interesting. So now we're just going a little bit deeper into the same thought of divorcing ourselves, separating ourselves from that which we are not. What are we not? The material. The material. You know, for individuals who especially have read Prabhupada's books, heard lectures by him, individuals who even met Prabhupada, etc., we know that this was one of the fundamental teachings that he tried to give us. You are not your body. You are not your body. You are not your mind. You are not your possessions. You are not anything that lies exterior to the Atman. This is one of the first lessons. This is again, these are the beginning lessons of Sanatana Dharma and of the yoga system. So this is what Dattatreya is talking about here. But he's going, again, a little bit deeper. When material associations fall away, that is when what was done in the previous sentence is now done, when what was said there is now done, that is, we begin to disassociate from that which we are not, well, the mistaken designation that it is mine disappears. And this is in quote, this is mine, it is mine, it is mine. Now, what is meant by this? This sense of false possession. False possession. You see, this again is part of our existential dilemma as we find ourselves presently within the material world. And what is that? What is, one could say, it's interesting, you don't even have to look at this from a spiritual perspective. Even from a secular material perspective, even from a political perspective, a psychological perspective. What is the problem in our world? What has always been the problem? Why is there injustice? Why is there crime? Why is there all of the bad things that we've experienced? Because we have billions of human beings. Oh, forget about the animals. This applies to them as well. But we human beings, we have more volition. We have more freedom of will. We have billions of human beings convinced that it is mine. And if it is not mine now, I will make it mine. You see? What does that mean? I will make it mine. Either in nice ways or not nice ways. Nice ways? That beautiful car, that beautiful house, that beautiful whatever. People don't really wear fur coats anymore, but you get the idea. That beautiful fur coat. Either it is mine, I have it, I've bought it, and I'm going to hang on to it no matter what, and more, and this is the difficult part, I create my sense of self as a result of that ownership. Or let's say it is not mine right now. Well, if I'm a nice person, let me accumulate money such that I can buy that. If I'm not a nice person, then what? What we see around us every single day of our lives in every single nation and every single community of this world, I will steal it. One way or another. I will steal it quite literally. I will steal the money to then buy it. I will be a very corrupt person and somehow bribe people to give it to me, etc., etc., etc. But this it is mine mentality is why our world is the way that it is, why we have the problems that we do. So it's interesting, again, when we look at these verses, let me say this actually. Who out there wants truth? I'm not even talking to the people here in our congregation. They wouldn't be here if they didn't want truth. I'm talking about the people watching right now or who will watch this recording. Do you want truth? Oh, if anyone were to ask this question, the hands of the vast majority of individuals would jump up. Oh, yes. And they'd be very adamant about it. Oh, they would say it with enthusiasm and gusto. Oh, yes, I want truth. I want truth. I want truth. What's interesting is this is not the only, but one of the tests of truth. Do you really want truth? Do you say you want truth? Do you even think you've convinced yourself that you want truth? Or do you truly want truth? And this is one of the tests. The Vedic Shastra, what is called Veda Shastra, the Vedic scriptures, they have the absolute and unadulterated truth. But this is the question, the follow-up question. You say you want truth. Are you willing to truly enter these scriptures in such a way that every single word has meaning to you? And you not just look at the syntax of the sentences, even the meaning of the sentences, but that you go deeper into layers that are there contained within the Vedic scriptures that exist in no other literature upon the face of the earth, including the scriptures of other religions. Are you willing to take your time with these scriptures? Let me tell you, just as one of hundreds of examples. So my guru's guru was Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura. And there was one time, just as an example, when he was in Vrindavana, and he decided to give lectures on one verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Every night. He only did that one verse of Bhagavad Gita. He didn't go on, just one verse. And he gave lectures nightly, 7 days a week for 3 months on that one verse of Bhagavad Gita. This is the nature of the Vedic scriptures. This is the nature of the Vedic scriptures. So why am I saying all this? The reason why I'm saying all this is because, again, when we look at even something deceivingly simple like this, the mistaken designation that it is mine disappears. The typical person will listen to that. They'll even really try to listen to it. They'll kind of understand it on a surface level and then go on. But no, we can go so deeply into this one sentence that we can understand quite literally the very nature of our world today and the humans in it and why they do the things that they do. So it's an amazing thing. This was just as an aside, so people truly appreciate this, that this is the nature of the Vedic scriptures. That's not enough to just, I read it, yeah, I understand the sentence. I understand it, okay, yeah. No. Forget about the sentence. These 3 words, it is mine. Understanding this mentality, we understand the motivation of the totality of living beings on this earth. It's amazing. So let's go on. Now, again, this is one leading to another, leading to another. It's a sequence. Freedom from selfishness leads indeed to happiness. So indeed, now we're talking about the state of liberation. First we spoke about what is the nature of selfishness, about liberation, but now we're going deeper into liberation. So again, freedom from selfishness. What is that freedom from selfishness? It's what was spoken about just a few moments ago. Final liberation, moksha, mukti. There are many different words. Nibbana, nirvana. Nibbana is the apakrit. Nirvana, kaivalya. There are many different words for this liberation, and there are many others that I can mention. But this is what is the nature of, indeed, liberation. It's freedom from selfishness. This selfishness, as we determined a short time ago, selfishness causes our suffering. Liberation is leaving the selfishness behind, and thus now what? Freedom from selfishness leads, indeed, to happiness. So, indeed, we could almost touch on theodicy again. I find theodicy to be very uninteresting because it's answered so easily and swiftly, and in a satisfying sort of way. But still, let's just deal with this a little bit. People always will ask, oh, suffering, suffering, suffering. Why do I suffer? Why does everyone suffer? Why does this one suffer? That one suffer? Why war? Why this? Why that? Etc., etc. But very few people actually seriously ask, A, why happiness? B, what is the nature even of happiness? And C, how do I attain happiness? People like to focus on the negative and, of course, to blame God so they don't have to look at themselves. But no, this is also a very interesting question dealing with theodicy. Forget about the suffering. Why happiness? How do I attain that happiness? Well, here Dattatreya is explaining to us that when we transcend selfishness, then we have happiness. But transcending selfishness meaning what? Again, everything that we have been speaking about, all of these sentences, every clause, every word has to always be seen within context. It's cheating when a person takes a small number of things out of context and tries to pretend that, oh, that's the thing that is of vast significance. No, we have to see this within context. So, liberation. We reduce our selfishness, we eliminate our selfishness, we come to the point of liberation. What do we have now? The very opposite of selfishness. We have happiness. What is meant by happiness? Now, this alone is something which, of course, we can talk about for a long time. I won't, but let me at least give a little bit of an explanation of what is actually meant by happiness. Because, again, you can go to the vast majority of people in this world who empirically you see them and you know they're suffering, and you ask them, are they happy? Many of them will say yes. The alcoholic on the Bowery, literally kind of lying half in the gutter. If you ask them, they'll say, oh yeah, I'm happy. The heroin addict, oh yes, I'm happy. The person who, on and on and on. The person who is harming themselves in so many ways. The person who, oh yes, they're 30 years old, they haven't had a job, I'm talking about a guy here, they haven't had a girlfriend, and they have done nothing but for the past 15 years but play video games, wasted the last 15 years of their life. Oh, are you happy? Yeah. Everyone will claim that they are happy. Is this what Dattatreya is speaking of? Or is he speaking about true happiness? Of course, he's talking about the latter. He's talking about not just what subjectively in their illusion people will foolishly say is happiness, but rather he's talking about that which transcends the subjective, that which objectively in the eyes, not of illusion beings, but of God, is happiness. And what is that? That is knowing our true self and living as that true self from the perspective of the Atman. It means knowing God, that is that which is the very foundation even of myself. It is being freed from all illusion and instead seeing via the eyes of that which is real and enjoying the actual rasa, the actual taste, the actual nectar of love. Transcendentally so, i.e. in such a way that again it is real, that again it is eternal, not temporary, and that it is of the nature of the infinite, i.e. there is no limit to that bliss, that ecstasy of love of God. That's happiness. And living one's life with that as your foundation. So this is what Dattatreya is saying here, is that indeed, when we become liberated, that's what we experience. That's our goal. Now let's go on. Actually, give me a moment to look and see if maybe we should stop here and leave the rest for next time. Yes, this would be a nice place to stop, actually. So everyone just take note. We're going to stop here for now because I'm also looking at the time, and it's very close to 3 o'clock our time. Like I said before, I want to have there be a significant amount of time for questions and answers. So at this point, why don't we pause here with actually going through the verses, and the next time we get together, I believe we can finish the rest of these verses. I don't think that would be very difficult at all. So that being the case, again, if there are any questions, from anyone, either here in the audience, online. Feel free to use the chat if you're online. And again, please feel free to ask any questions that you have about Sanatana Dharma. And they can be about the verses we spoke about today or last time, or truthfully, any sincere, legitimate, and honest question that you have about Sanatana Dharma and the Vedic way. It would be my pleasure to answer. And just give me a question as I look at these. Just give me a moment as I look at these questions here. Some very nice comments. One comment is, the dog eat dog world. Indeed, that's kind of a quote from Prabhupada. And it's not his quote, actually. He was quoting someone else. I can't remember who right now. But indeed, that's the nature of the material world. And then, like the Beatles song, I, me, mine. Indeed, that is the problem with people today. Very good. Very good. Let me read these two questions. The first one is not quite possible. It's not quite possible to answer it, but I can certainly do the second question. It is, greetings, Sri Guru. What are, quote, the waters that are spoken of in the Vedas and other texts? And also, what is love? Anyways, I must thank you and your disciples for the work you all do to benefit all. Very nice. Well, thank you for those questions. As far as the first question, there are many references to water, waters, etc. within the Vedic scriptures. So that's why I can't really answer that, because I'm not sure what you're speaking about specifically. Not just in the four Vedas themselves, but in the Puranas, again, in much of the Vedic literature. You hear references to water, indeed, even how you quoted it, waters, and they all mean different things. So it's not quite possible. That's just too general a question. But then you ask, what is love? Okay. What is love? Let me explain this first from an ontological perspective and then from a functional perspective. How's that? The ontological perspective is that love is indeed one of the attributes, one of the both attributes, but then attributive states experienceable by the Atman. So that is what love is. That is the origin of love as far as the Atman is concerned. As far as God's love for us, well, that's something that's a different question and a different story that would take a long time to go into. We can, but let me just assume you're asking from the perspective of the Atman. What does it mean to love for us? So again, ontologically speaking, you have Atman. Atman itself has attributive nature, i.e. it has attributes. So on the one hand, is Atman monadic in nature? Yes, it is. It's inseparable. It is the simplest of the simple. It is indeed a unit of consciousness itself. On the one hand, on the other hand, that unit of consciousness also has attributes. That is, it has both its essential nature, but then it has attributes that are reflections of the Atman itself that are inseparable from the Atman. So thus, these attributes are both one with the Atman, inseparable, but at the same time, from the perspective of the observer, you can discern what those attributes are within any given Atman. Of those, love is one of the most essential of all attributes of Atman. So this is what Atman is ontologically. Now, what love is ontologically. Now, how does love actually operate? What is its function? The function of love is something which, and again, we need to understand this from a theomorphic, not a anthropomorphic perspective. In other words, not from the perspective of human beings looking up, but from the perspective of the Atman itself. That's the only way that we'll understand this. The function of love is such that that love constitutes the eternal connection between, first and foremost, Atman and Paramatman, that is ourselves and God, but then ourselves and other Atmans as well. In other words, when we speak of this Sankhyan category of what is called Purusha, or consciousness itself, We know that consciousness are on the one hand all individuals, but yet on the other hand, they are all connected. This is not a New Age concept. This is a spiritual concept because it's true. What is that cohesive factor between all Atmans, whether individual minute Atmans or any given Atman and Paramatman or God? That cohesive factor is love. Without that love, there's no reason for one Atman to be connected to any other Atman, period. It is love that brings about that connection. And that's the functional aspect from, you can't even say a cosmological perspective, from a transcendent ontological perspective, because this does not even fall within the purview of our world. You see it operating, this principle operating within our world, but it is something that pre-exists our world, this cohesiveness that is there. More, from the perspective of God, now, and at first I said we wouldn't go too deeply into this, and we won't actually, but I do need to mention this. From the perspective of God, the reason why love is there is, in fact, let me ask the question, let me not just give the answer. We understand that cohesiveness between all Atmans ontologically must be there, otherwise there is no basis of relationship. But more, let me ask this. Why is it that God would also participate in this cohesiveness? Does he need to, in other words?
No.
Exactly. He does not need to. Why does he?
For us.
Yes, for us. Interestingly, even that is only functionally. Higher than that, why does he?
An observational relationship where the Atman can observe the beauty of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is the sustainer?
Yes, he is the sustainer. Yeah. This is actually, interestingly, it's good that you said that. This is part of what it means to understand God as sustainer. Because what does Narayana mean? The sustainer of all beings. This is the highest name of God. So this is indeed one of the things that God does. God sustains all of reality. It is an overflowing of his magnanimity. God's magnanimity is so great, really, what does that mean? To the point of infinity, such that it naturally overflows, such that it cannot but affect all living beings. What do we call that is overflowing? Love. So we're going very deeply, maybe almost too deeply. Again, and I'm just scratching the surface. This is something itself I can talk about very infinitely more deeply than this. But it is the overflowing of the magnanimity of God. That's how we understand love as in and of itself, sui generis, in and of itself, but also that love as it functions as that which is the cohesive element between every single Atman in existence, including even the relationship between Atman and Paramatman, ourselves and God. So I hope that explains what is the nature of love. Let's look into any other questions that are here. Give me one moment. I overshot here a little bit. Sometimes the screen doesn't always cooperate. Very nice comment here. I want to offer my respectful obeisances for bestowing your grace upon us via your teachings of the Vedas, Sri Acharyaji, Jaya Sri Guru. Thank you very much for those wonderful words. And indeed, you know, when a real guru, which is hard to find these days, when a true guru hears such words, interestingly, what they do, and Prabhupada explained this also, actually, when a guru hears praise, what is interesting is in their mind, what they do is they quickly grab onto that praise and they offer it in their mind to their guru, with the idea that then that guru offers it to their guru. So such praise goes to the parampara. not to me or to any specific individual. But thank you for those very kind words. Let me look at a few more of these. Oh, this is a good question. You've seen the question? No, this is a good one. Namaste, Sri Guru. You have talked about the coming golden age. What can someone do to help this to come about in one's own country if they live in a criminal state where avidya, that is ignorance, and hingsa, or violence, rule? Oh, what a good question, actually. What a good question. Because indeed, as we know, nations are not the same. They're all radically different and distinct. There is no equity between nations. Or between anything or anyone, for that matter. But we know that nations are all different. And in America, oh, how fortunate are we. Indeed, I speak about this with multiple people on a daily basis now. That for the last several weeks, sometimes multiple times per day, we see instance upon instance upon instance, such that anyone out there who would ever dare to doubt that we're living in a special age right now, as of just the last several weeks, you have to feel sorry for such an individual. Indeed, we are entering into a golden age, and the evidence is all around us. However, this is happening for right now, primarily in America. Oh, it's beginning very slowly, and it is going to sweep all of Europe. Believe me, it's going to sweep. What we are seeing in America now, in fact, let me just be bold and say this. The changes that we are seeing in America in the last few weeks are eventually going to begin to happen in the United Kingdom. They're going to happen in France, they're going to happen in Germany, they're going to happen in Romania, they're going to happen in Ireland, they're going to happen in Sweden, they're going to happen in Norway, they're going to happen in Lithuania, they're going to happen in Bulgaria, they're going to happen in Poland, they're going to happen in every single nation of Europe. They're going to happen in Australia. Hug your koala bear really well, because you're in for a ride eventually. Hang on to your koalas. Keep them safe, because you're going to be in for a ride. When? Soon. No, not today. Soon. Soon. Stop doubting, please. Stop wasting your time. Stop doubting. Open your eyes. I always told you what would happen in America first. And then, like an unstoppable tidal wave, 1,000 feet high, it's going to sweep the world, including Australia, including New Zealand. It's going to sweep Japan. In time, it's going to sweep China. It's going to sweep all of Latin America, from Mexico all the way down to Argentina. It's going to sweep everything. Everything. But not equally and not all at the same time, because indeed nations are not the same. They're all different. And some indeed, as you described here, a country that is a criminal state where violence and ignorance still rule. Let me tell you several things. And first of all, let me back up. I'm so sorry that you live in such a nation. You have our sympathies. You have our sympathies, you have our prayers. You didn't mention what the nation is. That's all right. You don't need to. You have our prayers and truly our sympathy for having to experience such a thing. Let me tell you what you are to do. Number one, never be black-pilled, no matter what you're experiencing. Never be black-pilled. Because, let's back up. We are the cause of our own suffering. If we allow ourselves to be black-pilled, then you do not have a right to ever open your mouth again in complaint. Then you are the author of your suffering. In that case, be quiet, step out of the way, let everyone else do their work. And once the golden age hits your nation, come and enjoy. But never consider yourself a hero. Or stop being black-pilled and join those brave people, those heroes in your nation who are doing anything that they can, big or small, to help to bring about a golden age. Help them, help them, help them. So this is number one. Never be black-pilled. Never think, oh, all is lost. Oh, my Lord, it's all meaningless now. What am I to do? At that point, you're the problem. You understand that, correct? At that point, you're the problem. The problem is not something that's hitting you. You're not the victim. You're the problem. So stop being the problem. Never give up. Start to do. Get out of your house. Start to do good. What do? Whatever you can. Well, at the same time, you want to keep yourself and your family safe. You know, you don't want to do things in a reckless sort of way. Aristotle, told us in the Nicomachean Ethics to never be reckless. We are to be brave, but we're not to be reckless. So indeed, in an intelligent way, in a brave way, start to wake up others. You see, how is this golden age going to come about? It's going to be a mass awakening. People are going to wake up, wake up, wake up. How do they wake up? It's not magic. They wake up because someone woke them up. And it can be something as detailed and extensive as, they had to have multiple conversations with them and explain the nature of the world, etc., etc. Or it could be a meme. It could be quite literally that someone is minding their own business on where? Facebook of all places. What to speak of X or anywhere else. And they saw a meme that finally made them think about something. And now they understand, all right, I'm living in a realm of corruption. Now let me strive for the opposite. So this is why, again, do whatever you can as a person to make your nation a better place. And again, this means all the above. This means A, you be patient. You realize that, yes, just due to the nature of your nation, the fix might come later. The cure might come a little bit later instead of now. How fortunate are we to be in America that the fixing is happening right now, quite literally. Other nations, it will take longer. So be patient, but also do anything and everything you can without harming yourself or your family or those around you to wake up others, wake up others, wake up others. And then finally, this is something that is of vast importance as well. The golden age will hit your nation. Again, when? In a week? In a month? In 6 months? Don't know. But when it does, are you ready to be a denizen of a golden age? Are you ready? You see here, let's get to the black-pilled person. Guess what? The golden age is going to come. You won't be ready for it. You've wasted your life being black-pilled. The golden age is going to come, where there's going to finally be happiness. And you'll be remembered as the person who did nothing to bring that about. No. When the golden age finally comes, be someone who is ready because you've prepared yourself. Even at the worst of times, you've prepared yourself for the best of times. Now make yourself a worthy citizen of the golden age. But start now. Start now. Start now. Don't just wait. All right. My Lord, everything's wonderful. All the evil people are in prison. Everything's changed. The economy is doing 100 times better. I'm doing 100 times better. Oh, okay, well, I guess I was wrong. It's a golden age now. Oh, that's nice. You'll do that. Trust me. You'll have no choice but to eventually do that. But how sad that that's what it took, that you had to literally see the golden age in front of you before you made yourself worthy of such an age. Make yourself worthy now, as much as you can, of a golden age. So, indeed, this is what we are to do. We never give up. We have hope. We have faith. We pray to God. We take shelter in God. In the meantime, whether, again, we're fortunate enough to be in America where we see changes around us, the wonderfulness of which are indescribable and that are going to continue faster and even more so. What have we seen in just the last few weeks? We're going to see this escalate and go faster for the next 4 years. What America is going to be like in 4 years, we can't even imagine how good it's going to be. We're going to see this throughout the world. In the meantime, you have faith, you have faith, you have faith. You surrender to God, and you know that in the end, who wins? God wins. no matter what. So I hope that answers the question. Very good. Let me see what other questions there are here. Good. Here's a nice question, actually. So far, all these questions are very good. Namaste, Sri Acharyaji. What is one of the first experiences of knowing our Atman? Vaikuntha, no anxiety. And let me explain. I could stop there and just go on because that's the answer. But let me go a little bit deeper into what's meant by that. What it means to be within the material world in such a manner that, we are in illusion, we are operating via ego, we are not fully aware of who we are as Atman, is that what we experience all around us is anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. Anxiety is one of those things which, interestingly, almost everyone has within the material world. Indeed, a lot of animals even have anxiety. Oh, it's terrible. But we're talking just about humans now. Anxiety is so prevalent, is so omnipresent within people to the point where the vast majority of individuals don't even have a clue just how much anxiety they even have. We're aware of when it really hits us as a powerful wave. But it's an amazing thing, actually, when a person begins to meditate and begins to become actually very peaceful and very in touch, very intuitive, very in touch with what they are experiencing. It is then that we begin to experience that, oh no, there is anxiety that goes down deep, level after level after level after level. And that has been with us for multiple lifetimes. Now, interestingly, this is one reason why one of the names of the spiritual realm, the kingdom of God, is Vaikuntha. And again, what's the actual translation of that? The realm of no anxiety. When we begin to experience our true Atman and to know who and what we truly are as consciousness, we begin to experience that. The anxiety not only begins to go away, but let me state this in this very interesting, very philosophical way. By Vaikuntha, by no anxiety, what is meant by that? Even just conceptually, even just linguistically, does it mean quite literally only the elimination negatively of that which is anxiety producing, that which is anxious? So in other words, do we describe the kingdom of God merely as a via negativa? Oh, here's the kingdom of God. Here's a definition of the kingdom of God. No one's punching you in the side of the head. Now, is that true? Oh, yes, it's true. It's true. But is that really all that the kingdom of God means? No, of course. By Vaikuntha, by no anxiety, what is meant is not merely the negation of anxiety itself, but also the experiencing of its opposite, which is bliss, true bliss. So indeed, all this being understood, this is why, to answer your question, one of the first and most profound experiences, I should also say this, not just first, but one of the most profound experiences that we have when we are in meditation, when we begin to know our Atman, is indeed that the anxiety is not there, and then of course that we experience its opposite, we experience bliss. So I hope that answers the question. Good. Here's another good question. I have heard you say, and not just me, a lot of people say this, even a lot of ISKCON leaders who I've spoken to personally, actually. I have heard you say that the Sri Sampradaya is the most orthodox. What exactly does that mean? What it means is that it is the first. What it means is that it is the most. It is the in fact, let me back up. There are 4 Sampradayas, 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas. Of all these 4, and then there are offshoots of the 4 Sampradayas. Interestingly, I've only said this a few times, and it's technically extremely true. Gaudiya Vaishnavism, for example, is not a Sampradaya. It is an offshoot of the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. But there are 4 Sampradayas. Of these, the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya is the oldest. B, its origin is transcendentally located. Let me explain what I mean by that. None of the other sampradayas can say this. They all have their founders, whether it's Rudra, whether it's the four Kumaras, whether it's Brahma, but all of these individuals are not situated in Vaikuntha. The origin of the Sri Sampradaya is who? It's in the name.
Lakshmi.
Oh, well, yes, that's true, but come on,
Shri.
play with me. Shri. It's in the name. Shri Lakshmi is the origin of this sampradaya. Sri Lakshmi is transcendentally situated, i.e. Sri Lakshmi is not just a god, not just a goddess, not just a very nice sage, etc. Sri Lakshmi is co-absolute with God, with Narayana. This being the case, this also makes this somewhat different. The other thing is that philosophically speaking, Bodhayana is one of the first commentators on the Vedanta Sutras, on the Brahma Sutras. We know that there are latter-day commentators, the last extant of which is Shankara Acharya, who wrote circa 8th to 9th century, something like that. No one knows exactly when he was born. But that's the oldest extant commentary on the Brahma Sutras, on Vedanta. However, we know for a fact, every scholar knows this, that Bodhayana pre-existed Shankaracharya by approximately 2,000 years. Again, even with that, we don't know exactly. And the teachings of Bodhayana were Vishishta Advaita, i.e. the philosophical underpinnings of what we call the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. So, philosophically speaking, the most ancient and most orthodox commentary on the Brahma Sutras, by which we understand Vedanta, by which we understand the culmination of the Vedas themselves, is Sri Vaishnava. And I can go on and on and on, and I can give you a list of about 50 things that explain why, indeed, of all four sampradayas, it is the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya that is the most orthodox. Now let's just talk about this from a very, 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 very recent perspective. And again, I'm speaking about Gaudiya Vaishnava specifically because I know the person who asked this question is a very sincere individual who was a Gaudiya Vaishnava, is now a follower of the ISDS. Throughout its historical development, and I know the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism better than any human being upon the face of the earth, and I don't say that lightly. I did graduate research on this, and I was a Gaudiya Vaishnava very, very long time ago. Let me tell you, the number of items that Gaudiya Vaishnavas very openly borrowed from Sri Vaishnavism are multiple hundreds of items, both philosophically, ritual-wise, in so many ways, even culturally. And this is from the very beginning with Jiva Goswami and the Shatsandarbhas, the 6 philosophical works that he wrote, where in that work, which I read in the Sanskrita, actually it's written in Sanskrita, he attributes many of his teachings again and again and again to Ramanuja. So going back literally to the 16th century, that was the case. Then we have so many other individuals who borrowed from Sri Vaishnavism. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself borrowed from Sri Vaishnavism, both ritually, that is taking from not just the Pancharatra literature, but the Pancharatra literature as interpreted by the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. He did this beginning in the 19-teens into the 20s and 30s. The Tridanda, he took very openly, and this is the thing, very openly, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they didn't try to hide this. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he made it quite clear. Oh yes, the Sri Vaishnavas, they know what they're doing. Let us now do the same. Gaudiya Vaishnava sannyasis carry with them a staff called the Tridanda. Previous to this, it was the Ekadanda. It was one stick. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati changed this because he saw that the Sri Vaishnava sannyasis were using 3 rods instead of 2. So I forget the exact year, but I believe it was in the late teens or early 1920s. He borrowed this from the Sri Vaishnavas and he institutionalized it among the Gaudiyas that, oh yes, like the Sri Vaishnavas, we will have Tridanda, 3 rods, 3 sticks, and on and on and on, all the way to ISKCON, all the way to 2025. When it comes to more serious ritual and yagya, that they now do. They openly have borrowed this from Sri Vaishnavas. Indeed, one of the biggest individuals who does ritual for ISKCON itself is an individual who is a Prabhupada disciple who I've known in the past. I won't say his name, but he's also, interestingly, really a practicing Sri Vaishnava. And he's done all of the most important rituals for ISKCON. So again and again and again, even when it comes to Gaudiya Vaishnavas, from Jiva Goswami up until 2025, they very humbly and very openly have taken from the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. Why? Because even ISKCON recognizes that you want to witness with your own eyes Vaishnavism in its most orthodox form, you go to the Sri Vaishnavas. And again, everyone of knowledge who is a Vaishnava knows this. So indeed, I hope that answers your question. I'm going very quickly. I could go much deeper. At this point, sadly, let's see, it is, we're way over time. I won't necessarily be able to answer every single question that I see here, because I see there are a lot. And truthfully, if I were to try even to answer all the questions, we'd be here for another 40 minutes. And, you know, that's just a little bit too long. So if I don't answer your question, in other words, please don't take offense. No, this is not a silly question. You say here, I'm sorry if this question sounds silly. It's not, actually. Let me read this next question. Namaste, Sri Acharya. In regards to reincarnation, how do we learn from previous lives if we cannot remember them? Sorry if that seems silly. It's not silly in any way whatsoever. It's simply stating what is the reality of the situation. How many people remember their previous lives? Very few. Some do. Oh, indeed, some do. Some do yogically. Some do even as children. Oh, to this day, you know, you can watch documentaries where they're quite real, where there's a 5-year-old boy or girl, and you know they can take you to where they lived in their previous life, and it's all documented that they know things they're not supposed to know. They can even know other languages, even though there's no evidence that they learned that language at the age of 5 in this lifetime, etc. So there are some people who can indeed know their previous lifetimes. Some, of course, know their previous lifetimes yogically, etc. But again, these are all a minority of cases. For the vast majority of individuals, they don't remember their previous lives. So yes, you're asking here, how do we learn from our previous lives if we cannot remember them? You can't. It's that simple. It's just very logical. Oh, how do I know the contents of a book I've never read? You can't. It's that simple. The same thing, you can't learn from previous lives without knowing those previous lives. Now, what does that entail? Well, it's not necessary to simply know previous lives in order to learn. We can learn from this life. We can learn from this life, but more, we can learn inferentially as well, greater lessons that are more general. So, for example, we may not know specifically, oh, 3 lifetimes ago, I did X thing, and oh yes, let me contemplate that. Oh, that was not good, let me not do that again. Or you can simply know, generally speaking, that as a moral principle, X thing should not be done. You see? So you don't necessarily have to know that, oh, again, I punched someone in the side of the head 3 lifetimes ago. Oh, I shouldn't do that. That's very specific. Or you can know that it is not good to punch someone in the side of the head. Either way, you're knowing it. So this is why it's good to learn the general principles. Also, you can learn from your own life experience and memories from this life. That's the other thing. We may not remember things we did 5, 10, 100 lifetimes ago, but we can remember our life in this life. So in this way, we just try to learn as much as we can. And then finally, as we become very advanced yogis, very advanced spiritually, we can get to the point where we do begin to remember things from our previous lives that will have important lessons for us. So I hope that answers the question in a very real way. Very good. At this point, I'm going to see if maybe there's one more question that I can answer very quickly. Good. Very nice. I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't even asking for this. But you very nicely volunteered this in a follow-up to a question that you asked before. So let me read this to everyone, actually, and then make a very, very brief comment on this. This was the person who asked about, oh, what if you live in a nation that's just terrible? How are we to experience the golden age if I live in a nation of violence, ignorance, etc., etc.? So the person is following up now. Thank you so much, Sri Acharya-ji. My nation is Mexico, and I live in Sinaloa, where the drug cartels rule and are at war with each other. Ma shuchaha, do not fear. Yes. Let me just give you a very quick comment on this. First of all, again, you have my deepest sympathy for having to live in such hellish conditions. And I know what you mean. I know this area. It's very famous indeed for a lot of violence. And again, I'm very sorry that that's the case. Let me tell you this, and please listen to these words very carefully. All of the drug cartels across the length and breadth of the totality of Mexico are going to be annihilated into dust. They're going to be vinashaya dushkritam. They're going to be annihilated. When? Oh, not today, not tomorrow, but very soon. Think of the biggest cartel leaders that you can think of who are billionaires. Oh, and I know some of them are billionaires. Again, I know the topic quite well. Think of these drug cartels who quite literally have their own little armies with their own uniforms, etc. They are going to be annihilated to the point where if any of the individuals in drug cartels even survive, they will be in hiding for the rest of their lives. And they will be experiencing nothing but fear for the rest of their lives. Please be patient. Please take shelter of God in the meantime. And just know that this will happen. And indeed, ma shuchaha, do not fear. Very good. So with that, sadly, we are going to stop here for now. I know that there are more questions, but again, please forgive me. We would be here for much, much, much longer. And we've already gone for an hour and a half. But again, please join us again next week, because we will continue with these verses that we're looking at, and we will finish them next week when we get together, and we'll also even have time for more questions and answers. So with that, before we leave, let me just say these few announcements to everyone. Again, to remind people, the International Sanatana Dharma Society, we have a Discord server. And if you would like to join our Discord server, to join our community, please feel free to do so. I know that if you look in the chat specifically, the link is there. If you see this as a video afterwards, as a recording, again, just look in the chat, not the comments, but in the chat itself, if you want to follow that link and join our Discord server. It is a Discord server of hundreds and hundreds of devotees of the ISDS, and wonderful things take place there. Wonderful transcendental conversation, friendships, practice, discussion groups, things of every description, all revolving around Sanatana Dharma. So if you want to be part of our online discussion community, please join that Discord forum. The other thing, as I've mentioned, please visit dharmacentral.com, which is the main website of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. And if you can, if and only if you can, I have to say this because it is my duty as a religious leader to do so. If you can, and if you have found this valuable to you, please donate to the International Sanatana Dharma Society. We are a non-profit religious organization. So please donate to us so that we can continue to expand the work that we're doing. And it is indeed expanding every day, but the more support we have, the more it will expand. So please go to Dharma Central, and if you look on the menu there, you'll see where you can donate, where you can even become a monthly tithing member. And that way you're connected to the ISDS as a member as well. With that, again, thank you all for being here. Please join us again next Sunday. And between now and then, please, in every way, take very good care of yourselves. Indeed, a golden age is here. It's just starting, just beginning. But we will all very soon experience this golden age throughout the entire world. But between now and then, take good care of yourselves. And namaste, and everyone, so that the gods in the heavens can hear. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharmarashtra Jayate.
Dharmarashtra Jayate.
Suryavansha Jayate.
Suryavansha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Victory to Sanatana Dharma and to the Dharma nation. Evam bhavatu. May such victory be so. And so it shall be so. And everyone, I leave you with these words from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66, wherein Krishna says to Arjuna and to all of us today, Ma shuchaha, do not fear. अच्छा है।